The world stands on the edge, the air thick with anxiety, as the US and Iran inch closer to all-out war. The language of diplomacy has been drowned out by missile strikes and military maneuvers, leaving millions in the crossfire. Operation Midnight Hammer, America's strike on Iran's nuclear sites, has shattered the fragile status quo, pulling the region into chaos. Now, the question is not if a wider war will erupt, but when, and what will be left in its wake. To understand today's crisis, we must look back to 1979, when the Iranian Revolution toppled the Shah and ended US-Iranian partnership. The hostage crisis scarred America, while Iranians remembered decades of US interference. Decades of sanctions and proxy wars followed, until the 2015 nuclear deal, JCPOA, offered hope. But in 2018, the US withdrew, reimposing sanctions and pushing Iran to resume nuclear activities. The collapse of the deal destroyed the diplomatic off-ramp, setting both nations on a collision course. Attacks on oil tankers, the downing of a US drone, and the killing of General Soleimani brought both sides to the brink. The broken deal now stands as a symbol of failed promises, fueling the explosive events of today. In June 2025, Operation Midnight Hammer unleashed over 125 US aircraft and cruise missiles on Iran's nuclear facilities. The Pentagon aimed to cripple Iran's nuclear program, but the strikes only deepened the crisis. Iran retaliated with hundreds of missiles on Israel, overwhelming defenses and causing chaos. Tehran threatened to close the Strait of Hormuz, risking global economic shock. The world watched in horror as the conflict spiraled, with global powers divided and regional states bracing for fallout. The fragile peace was shattered, and the region is now more volatile than ever. Iran's true power lies in its network of proxies, the axis of resistance, spanning Lebanon, Yemen, Iraq, Syria, and Gaza. These groups, armed and funded by Tehran, allow Iran to strike at its enemies indirectly, creating a multi-front crisis. The recent missile barrage on Israel was just one example. Hezbollah's arsenal and Houthi threats loom large. Iran's strategy frustrates its rivals and ensures it remains a key player in every regional conflict. Any attack on Iran risks igniting coordinated retaliation across the Middle East. This decentralized web of conflict is Iran's greatest strength, and Washington's nightmare. For Washington, a nuclear-armed Iran is the ultimate nightmare, one that could trigger a regional arms race and embolden Tehran's proxies. The fear is that if Iran gets the bomb, Saudi Arabia, Turkey, and Egypt might follow, destabilizing the world's most volatile region. Israel, feeling existentially threatened, has joined the campaign to stop Iran's nuclear progress. The recent discovery of near-weapons-grade uranium was the final straw, prompting the US strikes. Yet much enriched uranium remains unaccounted for, fueling anxiety and uncertainty. The dilemma: how to stop Iran's nuclear ambitions without igniting a catastrophic war. The conflict's shockwaves reach far beyond Iran and Israel, shaking the global economy and oil markets. Iran's threat to close the Strait of Hormuz has sent oil prices soaring, risking recession worldwide. Civilians in Israel and Iran face daily terror, sirens, explosions, and uncertainty. Gulf states hosting US bases fear being drawn into war, while desperately calling for calm. The crisis has deepened global divisions, paralyzing the UN and straining alliances. American allies are torn between security commitments and economic interests. As the world fragments, the risk of escalation grows. With diplomacy silenced and trust shattered, both sides see force as the only answer. The risk of miscalculation is higher than ever. One mistake could trigger a regional war. The fate of Iran's nuclear program remains uncertain, and the humanitarian cost of escalation would be catastrophic. Refugee crises, economic collapse, and mass casualties loom if the conflict widens. The only way back is through courageous, patient diplomacy. However narrow that path may be, the world must demand leaders step back from the brink. The choice is stark, and time is running out.